Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Collectively, we are Office Bloke Team 6.
I suppose it could be.
Whatever.
If you say so.
Whatever, just trying
We'll
things.
go along with that, we'll go along with anything.
Team 69.
Oh, no. No, it won't be 69, there's 3 of us.
Yeah.
Unless Mike's just watching.
Yin yang and yin.
Grim. Right then, SEAL Team 6 wipe out Al-Qaeda fortress. Mature audiences only. Combat footage.
Ooh, I see.
They're the top of the top SEAL Team 6, aren't they?
Yeah.
Don't they have a name?
I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah, they have a name.
I know that
5 or 6 letter name. Can't remember what it's called.
I know that Jocko Willink, he talks about his SEAL team was Task Unit Bruiser, I think they were called.
Right.
But I think they were one of, like SEAL Team 3 or 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I presume they've all got other names. I don't know if they're official or not.
Well, that's SEAL Team 6, like the elite.
I think they're the
top,
think so.
aren't they, top of the tree?
They're the ones that got Bin Laden, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, excited for this one. Let's do it.
Good.
SEAL Team 6 wipe out Al-Qaeda fortress. Let's do this.
Our target was a group of improvised explosive device makers on a small peninsula. We loved targeting IED makers because those roadside bombs were responsible for the vast majority of American casualties in the war. When we killed the producers, we knew we were saving American and coalition lives. This group had chosen their hideout wisely. The peninsula was so small that it was practically impossible to penetrate without being noticed. In fact, no Americans had ever been there. There were too many women and children present to call in an airstrike. The size made it too risky to fly into. The chances of being shot out of the sky were great. And because there was only one road in, it was littered with IEDs. A convoy would get blown up for sure. The result was that Al-Qaeda had been able to run its operation there totally unchecked since 2003. They felt safe. We knew they were complacent. Our plan was simple. Don't fly in, don't drive in. We were SEALs. We'd swim in. It was perfect. The enemy believed they'd hear any...
This looks like training footage.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah. Yeah, I've got targets to go out there, haven't they? So
It just baffles me how these people in the world, right, who just want to go about killing other people.
Yeah.
indiscriminately as well.
Yeah.
I know, it's bizarre.
Yeah. It's just global politics, isn't it? If people get blown up, if a drone strike blows up a wedding in your country, then you think you're justified in attacking back, and then it's like gang warfare, isn't it? Where it just escalates from back to
But their life is just making IEDs in a little shitty area where no one else goes, and that's just their life.
You only had to go back a couple of decades, and it was the reality in a lot of Ireland, wasn't it? And there's literal bomb makers, and it was happening quite a lot.
But that's your life. That's all you're going to do.
It's sad.
And occasionally pick one of you and go, right, carry that over there, walk towards them.
Yeah.
It's just
What
great.
life, eh?
Yeah.
It is.
Any Americans invading by air or land. The idea that we'd swim in would have never occurred to them. They'd totally forgotten to build a moat and stock it with crocodiles. There was a total of 19 terrorists and 10 houses on our hit list. We weren't sure how many would be there, so we brought the whole crew. 17 SEALs, 2 of our dogs, and a few enablers. We'd all get wet together. Thank you guys so much for checking this video out. Today's story is going to be coming from the book The Operator, written by a legendary SEAL Team 6 operator, Rob O'Neill, the man who killed Bin Laden. I can't say enough good things about this book. It is one of my all-time personal favorites. I'll have it linked down in the description below. You guys should definitely get this book if you haven't already read it. I'll also have a link down in the description below to Rob O'Neill's podcast. If you haven't checked out his podcast yet, it is fantastic. If you like what we do here on the channel, you'll definitely like his podcast. He goes over a lot of stories and stuff on it, and it's just a lot of fun to listen to. So go check it out and be sure to let him know who sent you. If you guys want to help support the channel, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. But most importantly, watch the video all the way through. That is a huge help to me and helps boost us up in the algorithm and make sure as many people as possible get to hear these incredible American combat stories. With all that out of the way, let's continue on with the story. We loaded up our helos and made the short flight to our point of insertion. We walked a bit until the dry land turned into swamp. It wasn't too bad, mostly swampy mud with a few points of deep water where we'd swim. Of course, I wasn't the one carrying the poles and ladders. We always made the new guys do that. For them, it sucked. The dogs hopped through most of the mucky stuff, but in the deeper water we needed to lift them up. They had handles on top of their vests, so you could carry them like a very squirmy briefcase. Our guns were packed in shoot-through bags. The guns fit in them snugly with a built-in rubber glove so you could reach the trigger and shoot through it if you had to. We made it across in 2 hours.
I've never seen them before.
No.
I guess keeps it safe for insertion into the...
Safe and dry when you're going through water and swamps
but
and
still
stuff, I suppose.
usable.
Yeah.
It's a guy I see walking to work who's got a very similar bag.
Really?
Yeah, do you know what he is? I realised this morning what's in his bag.
Rent-a-kill.
Lollipop Man.
No
He's
way.
unscrewed.
I thought you were going to say something really exotic there.
No. I realised he's gone into 2 or 3 pieces and it's got the round bit at the bottom. It's gone into a bag that looks just like that.
Have you ever,
he's a lollipop man.
have you ever seen the movie with Antonio Banderas where he's got an acoustic guitar and he's a hitman? And like he opens the guitar case and then
Very
under
old
that is
film.
yeah.
Sounds familiar.
I think it's one of 3 possibly, and Johnny Depp might be in it as
Yeah,
well.
it does sound familiar.
So that's the Mexican version of it, and our version is the Lollipop Man. He comes in and sorts traffic out.
If anyone's wondering what a lollipop man is a crossing guard.
Crossing guard, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think to qualify that actually. It'd sound pretty weird, wouldn't it?
I didn't know what they were called over in the States.
Crossing guard.
Crossing guard. All right, okay.
Hours and hit dry land again. The peninsula was pretty small, about the size of a couple football fields, but packed with houses, huts, and narrow roads. It was obvious from first look why we had never been able to land there, and fast roping would have provided the enemy with too much time to shoot as the helicopters hovered. But we were there now. It was 1 a.m. local time. We made our way to the primary target buildings. They were side by side. The one on the right was 3 stories tall. The one on the left, my team's target, was 2 stories. Our plan was to surround both and get the snipers up high for security. Then we were going to enter both structures simultaneously and silently so that we could get the drop on the enemy. That plan didn't last very long. A sentry on top of the structure to the right saw us. He didn't know who we were for sure, but he knew we shouldn't be there. He started shooting his AK-47 right down on top of us. My guys and I were in a narrow alley just below him in between the 2 buildings. He missed us all somehow. I'm guessing because Allah was busy elsewhere, and we were all able to scramble to cover. Nobody could get a clear shot off, and we were disciplined enough not to randomly fire in his direction. You want to aim at what you shoot at and hit what you aim at. Plus, if we didn't fire back, it could confuse the enemy. This guy was on a balcony and would fire quickly and blindly and then retreat back a few steps. That's why we were able to get to adequate cover. One of our team snipers, Greg, who was a lifesaver for us but the angel of death for Al-Qaeda, did what Greg does best. He saved the day. Luckily, when the shooting started, our snipers already had their ladders out and were preparing to climb. The sound of an AK-47 simply made our snipers do their ladder setting faster. Greg was able to get to the roof first, 3 stories up, and get an angle on the terrorist. The bad guy had his back to Greg, but his wife was standing right next to him. Greg's problem was that the spot he'd climbed to was a small entryway into the house, and there was a light on right above him. The illumination was bad news, so he crept over and started to unscrew the light bulb. He managed to get the light bulb off just in time, because as it became dark again, the woman turned around and headed back for the entryway. She walked right up to Greg, stopped for a second face to face with him, then went inside. Greg had his night vision on, so he was looking right at her the whole time. She never noticed. The sentry with the AK-47 took his last shots down the alley and then bolted for the inside of the house to get more ammo. Just like the woman, he wound up face to face in the dark with Greg. Only this time, Greg didn't just get out of the way, he put 2 bullets from a suppressed .45 into the guy's head. Rooftop building 1-1 clear. Because the fighters in our building had certainly heard the ruckus outside of their windows, my team decided that we needed to enter immediately while we still had some surprise advantage. We left cover and ran to the main entry of the building on the left, which was just around the corner at the exit of the alley. I found myself in the number 1 man position and stopped at the front door to see if it was open. It was. I waited less than a second until I got the squeeze from Mac, my number 2 man. I went left, he went right. Right away we encountered 2 terrorists on their feet with AK-47s. One was off to my left in a bedroom with a woman standing next to him. I could see them through the open door. The other was coming out of a bedroom farther down the hall off to the right. He had some kids next to him. This is why we didn't want to just bomb the place. As soon as I recognized the threat, I took 2 shots just to the left of the woman, hitting the armed man in the head. I could hear Mac taking his shots at about the same time. Both terrorists fell dead. We now had 4 of our shooters in the...
These guys are just such pros, aren't they?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean, they're going in there, putting their lives at risk to try and eliminate people or try to kill the people, and the people who try to kill them fucking stood there cowering behind women and children.
I know, so it's ridiculous, isn't it?
And they won't afford Americans the same type of clemency.
Absolutely not. They'd take them all out.
They just bomb the place, won't they?
Yeah.
No matter who was in it.
Correct.
Just take them out completely.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
It's the price of being morally virtuous a bit more. You know, you're going to struggle to do your job more because you're going to try and reduce collateral damage as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
But one's professional, one's not. That's the difference.
Well, like you said, he knew he's number 1. The guy behind him is number 2. One little squeeze on the shoulder. You go that way, you go that way. Pop, pop.
Yeah,
that's proper pros, isn't it? Like that's as high level
pros
as it gets.
Training. Yeah, absolutely.
There's no like you go in, you go in, and then kick the door, and then someone, you don't know what you're doing. It's what they train for.
These are all combat gear with all night vision and all that. The other guy's probably in like his Kandora with his sandals on. Trying to scramble for his AK-47.
Probably can't see anything.
Can't see anything. That's right.
But from a potential fortified position with bombs that you're making, so it's bad on both sides, isn't it? Yeah. You're going to go and kill bomb makers. What have bomb makers got? Bombs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
the whole place could just go. Yeah.
Bomb the place. As soon as I recognized the threat, I took 2 shots just to the left of the woman, hitting the armed man in the head. I could hear Mac taking his shots at about the same time. Both terrorists fell dead. We now had 4 of our shooters in the house, and we began to clear. I went to the bedroom on the left where I just shot the bad guy, and I now had boots behind me. Mac cleared up to the bedroom where his guy had come from and entered with Delicious. Our last 2 shooters from D Team entered behind us and made their way to the stairs, which were at the far end of the main room. Our room was cleared quickly. We searched the dead guy for a body bomb, which he didn't have, and grabbed the woman. We walked her out of the room and placed her in the far bedroom with the rest of the women and children. The 2 men killed were the only military-aged males in the house. One of our shooters stayed behind to watch the women and children, while the other 5 of us went up the stairs. We could hear gunfire coming from the other building. E&F teams were eliminating terrorists they were encountering as well as those trying to escape outside. As we made our way up the stairs, we slowed our pace. It was still dark in the house, so we might still have an advantage. If there were more fighters upstairs, we didn't want to announce that we were coming. The stairs went up to a halfway point, and then you had to turn left to get up the other half. I was the 3rd man going up. When the 1 man turned to get up the second part of the stairs, he noticed something that made the hair on his neck stand up. There was a hole in the wall right at the back of his head. He pointed his gun at it and turned on his white light to illuminate it. There was nobody there, so he ran up the stairs and secured it all, then checked out the hole in the wall. On the other side in a closet was a mattress, a fine sniper's nest. Had there been a shooter in place, the point man would have taken several 7.62 rounds to the back of the head. With the main building secure, we rounded up the women and children and handed them off to an enabler. The fighting in the buildings that E&F teams were taking down was still noisy, but our snipers had cleared the roof, so we were good to make a move. By the time we'd got to the next target, Building 1-3, all the terrorists were definitely awake. We entered slowly so we could get all the angles through the doors and windows. If we could avoid getting into another gunfight, the slowdown would be well worth it. I found myself in the one-man position again. As I began to clear the first room through the main door of the house, I spotted an armed man waiting for us. I dumped him with 2 shots to the head and finished my pan. Night vision and invisible lasers are such a great advantage. I entered as far as the crumpled body and stayed there, allowing the train to move into the interior. All 5 guys from D team began to methodically clear. They ran into one more Al-Qaeda operative in the room farther down the hallway and eliminated him. The team finished clearing the floor and moved to the 2nd floor. I was in the rear of the train, waiting to be needed and watching the guys up the stairs. Delicious was the point man. He went to the top of the stairs, carefully panning the areas he could without entering the space. I then heard Delicious pop 2 rounds off. He'd found another gunman and sent him to hell. As we moved on to our next target, Nate was still up high on building 1-2. He'd been watching us shoot our way through the compound, and he was tired of watching. "F this up high stuff," he said over the radio. "I'm rolling with D team." He ran downstairs and out the door. He made his way to the back of our train and went to the next building with us. Cruz was in front this time, and he slowly made his way to the main entry that was near the right side of the building as we faced it. Nate went over the left where there was a good place for him to climb just above a large window. I walked with him to cover his movement. Nate slung his sniper rifle and climbed to the roof. He reached for his .45, aimed at the large window, and shot 3 times. Out of my sight, there was a man with an AK-47 hiding behind a table, waiting for the entry team to come in so he could ambush them. Nate saw him at the last second and gave the guy 3 to the chest.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
Sniper's, been on the roof the whole time waiting, and then he goes, right, I'm jumping on this one. Climb up, look through the window, and there's someone waiting to ambush him.
Yeah.
There must be some sort of educated guessing.
Yeah, they probably have instincts as well, don't they, about these things. They've probably done operations similar before, so they're probably thinking constantly, aren't they, evaluating the situation. So
It's just mad that if I think with the SEALs, they're allowed to have a bit of autonomy, aren't they? They're allowed to make decisions on the ground.
Well, I think you've got to, haven't you?
In that situation, I think you've definitely got to.
Yeah. But I'm thinking for other people, if some commander would have said, you're on that roof for the whole mission, and they're just stood there watching it, whereas that guy's obviously got enough autonomy to go, I'm going to get down.
Yeah, it's obviously changing. It's obviously
Give me more down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that all the other houses they've done, and then the one he decides to do is where someone's waiting to shoot him.
Come in so he could ambush them. Nate saw him at the last second and gave the guy 3 to the chest. Again, darkness was our friend. Cruz and the others cleared this structure quickly since the one dead guy was the only person in there, and as it turned out, the last terrorist on the peninsula. In our after-action assessment, my boss and I were going through the list we'd made and started counting. With 2 dogs and 17 SEALs, we'd killed all 19 of the terrorists without hurting 1 woman or child or taking any casualties. The next day, the locals who'd been terrorized by this Al-Qaeda cell for 4 years realized that all their oppressors were dead. We could see their reaction because we had aircraft circling overhead, watching in case any more bad guys showed up to bury the dead. No more bad guys, just a big celebration. The party got so big with all these people drinking juice and dancing in the street that a newspaper in Baghdad sent a reporter up there. He asked who did this, who came last night. The women responded, ninjas, and they came with lions. That was the headline the next day in Baghdad. And with that, guys, that's going to be the end of today's video. This story is probably my favorite mission, combat story, operation from any book ever. I love this mission, dude. It's so unique. It showcases just perfectly what makes the SEAL teams and specifically development group so incredible in every way. It was an enemy controlled village where they were oppressing all these people that lived nearby and making all these IED bombs that were taking out tons of American troops, and no one else was capable of getting anywhere near this compound except for the SEAL teams. They were able to swim in through the swamp quietly in the dead of night and eliminate all of the terrorists without any civilians being harmed and without taking any casualties on their end. It's just absolutely incredible. And that ending part where the woman says that they were ninjas with lions is just such a sick line. You know that those guys were so pumped when they saw that headline. I can just imagine what the team looked like that day. Ninjas with lions. That is the funniest thing ever and so freaking sick. But anyway, guys, that's enough of me rambling on. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comment section.
Nice.
Excellent. Good.
Sounds like a good book by that Rob O'Neill.
Yeah, it does, but it's really interesting, that. It's got to be.
I'm wondering if he's been on Jocko's podcast, because I've listened to a lot of these guys actually. After they've written a book, they go on his podcast and explain bits, and Jocko asks him about certain bits. And but I've listened to that many of them now tell stories like that first person. It's hard to remember them all.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It's mad that woman almost started an international conflict between Japan and Afghanistan as well, didn't she? Saying that some ninjas came in with lions. It's terrible.
It's I mean, a big thing as well is before it is the reconnaissance, isn't it? Which must be pretty good, because they're going to the right buildings, how many terrorists are there. They've got all of them, so fair play to them. Top score as well. Yeah.
Do you remember that video we watched about there was like a recon group that worked with all of the other special forces? Right. And they're like the silent heroes of the whole thing.
Which is probably them, I would guess.
Yeah.
They've got got all the information, which is absolutely crucial to successful. Of course it has. Yeah.
And the technology, those night vision goggles, just going in quiet.
Yeah, and
such an advantage.
Is it invisible lasers as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they've got all the kit, haven't they? You've got the absolute top equipment, haven't they?
Great stories, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You give the best equipment to the best soldiers. I mean, you've got a hell of a force there, haven't you?
Yeah,
you really have.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.